Lee.
Yes.
Right. The wonderful and talented Mr. Lee Charles, everybody. Thank you so much. Me and Lee had a bit of a, I'm not joking, I've done several interviews this last week, and the interview and chat and catch up that we had last week, in my opinion, mate, it was a world-beating, groundbreaking interview on the level of Nixon and Frost, and unfortunately it's been lost to the ravages of technical incompetence. What's happened is, basically, while your interview was downloading, I've had some kind of local disruption to the internet, disrupted the file and made it unrecoverable. So that is lost to the sands of time. So today, in true Tenacious D fashion, this is the greatest and best interview in the world ever. Tribute. I'd also just like to reassure you, mate, I've got an Ethernet cable plugged in. So we're not quite back to the days of dial-up internet, right? As much physical connection going on here as possible to make sure. It's just, I shouldn't really be overly surprised because there's two things. One, when you put an analog man like myself into a digital age, bad things tend to happen. And two, without being in any way, shape or form self-pitying, the run of luck I've had in the last couple of years, nothing should surprise me. I've had car accidents. I've had the dam in Whaley Bridge. If you saw that on the international news,
yeah.
Dam that burst its banks, threatening to flood everybody. That's above my gym. So I've had floods and now plague, coronavirus. So I'm just like, bring on the insects. You know
bring it on, man. Bring it on. Bring on the C10 and red and.
Oh, it's coming. I'm glad if the insects are, as in the book, they're locust, I can handle that. I'm not a fan, but I'll handle that. If it was like a plague of spiders or something in that book, I'd be on the bike by now, mate.
I'll be gone.
Not hanging around for that. No, screw that for Game of Soldiers. Right, Lee, we will get down to business. So I am going to discuss a couple of other extra points that I forgot to include last time, which I think, and also give us some variation. I do want to cover a little bit of the same ground. So firstly, how have you been coping with this insane situation that we've got going on right now, bro?
Yeah, I mean, the last 3 weeks, I mean, I don't think any of us were prepared for what was going to happen, if that makes sense. I think we all knew it was going to be there, but like in our heads, it was like, but the last 3 weeks, I don't care what anyone says, it's hard. When you confined to being in your own place, not being able to go out, getting 1 hour a day, we've been prisoners of our own, our own surroundings, and it's like, even though it's yours, you're still being a prisoner. For me, I've used it positively. I've been so positive with everything that's been going on. I haven't let the situation sort of try and get to me mentally. I'm in a pretty good place mentally myself. I've been doing lots of online classes for my students. Students are loving it. I've fallen back in love with teaching. Dead weird, dead bizarre, dead. I can't, even though I'm not physically there, I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying the thing. I'm getting to know my students more so than what I did when they were physically in front of me. And we're having this interaction that we wouldn't normally have in a class. In a class, you come in, you bow, you do the class, you bow, you go home. At the moment, it seems to be a little bit more personal. It's inspired me to be a little bit better at what I'm doing. So, I'm sort of like, I've got this I've got this connection with my students at the moment, where we're doing stuff. And I'm, like I said, I'm getting to know them. So for me, if I'm honest, I mean, I think I heard on the radio this morning, I've been up to dojo for the first time today to do a session from there. Because I just thought I'll stay myself in for the time that I'll be in. Steve told you, I've been in 3 weeks. So now I'm just going, I only go to the dojo now and back. Do you know what? Going in there this morning and doing that session, it was like I'd had another injection of life into me. Excellent. Just being back in my surroundings, doing my stuff. So I did the class, then I did 12 rounds on the bag myself, and I was just like, yeah, this feels all right. But it's inspired me to like have it's just, it's pressed the reset button on me. That's gone. Do you know what? When you go back, you need to do X, Y, Z. You need to implement this. You need to do this. You need to do this. And I've been doing work. I've done a website. I've built an app for the website that comes in. You know, I'm doing competitions every week for the students, putting them on the website. You know, we had a grading before all this went down, but we couldn't do our graduation for the grading. So I did like a virtual graduation. So I did certificates that I don't normally do. So I did certificates. I got all of the students' faces, put them on the certificate, so then they could put them on the internet. So so it was more, even though it's not personal, it felt personal, if that made sense. Even though, we didn't have that personal interaction, they all still got something out of it. So yeah, I mean, do you know what, mate? It's like, you can sit there and you can piss and moan, and you can go, oh my God, this is just the worst thing in the world. Or you can go, when am I ever going to get this time off to do the things that I need to do? You know, when am I ever going to have that much time on my hands? I can do everything that I should be doing, get it done correct. And then, you know, when we go back in, you know, and also start sort of like self-training yourself to do them things, to manage them things. Because we don't, because we don't, mate. Now, you know, I mean, we've been in this for what now? This is the 3rd week or 4th week or whatever it is, 3.5 weeks, I think it is. You know, it shouldn't be it should just be normal now. Everything that you're doing, if you would have started at the beginning and not pissing and moaned about it and got stuck in, you know, the first thing I do, I get up, I train, I do my stretching, I do my yoga, then I do my class, then I go on, I check up on the websites, check up on what stuff that everyone's putting on the internet. I don't normally do that. I don't know, like, because I don't have time. Yeah. I don't have time. I'm doing PT sessions, I'm doing this and doing that. But I'm sort of like, I'm allowing myself to do it. So for me, you know, this you know, as bad as it is, and I can't be on the movie sets and stuff like that, and I can't be doing the stuff that I love to do, and being there and stuff, you know, it's still been a positive. It's been a massive positive. You know, when, you know, this time next year, we're going to go, wouldn't it be good to have that coronavirus again so we can have that time off work? Do you know? I mean, not in the terms of, I don't mean we have that. I mean in the terms of, remember that time when we had all that time off? You know, it's never going to happen again. It's never going to happen again. You know, I think for me, you know, as I said, you know, I listened this morning. We've got another 3 weeks of this. Now's the time for people to utilize it. You know, it's like, don't piss and moan. Don't let it get you down. Do what you need to do and do it. You know, it's, you know, if it's only another 3 weeks and we start to progress, I personally don't think martial arts clubs are going to get back till about September. I can't see that. I can't see them integrating people in confined spaces small time straight away. So
things like martial arts in the music industry or sporting events,
sports gatherings, gyms. I think all that's going to be August, September before they start sort of allowing small crowds and things to get together, because they still need to monitor and stuff. So as long as we've got that, whilst we're in this time and we're using that preparation to be able to do the stuff that we do, use it to go back. You use it to go, this is what I'm going to do when I go back. I'm totally relaunching. I've got new t-shirts ordered, new hoodies. I've got everything. You know, there's loads of stuff. I've got classes that I'm doing. I've had loads of inquiries for, like, since we've been down. You know, I've got people who sort of haven't been with the club, but have wanted the kids to do online training. So they're paying me to do the online training. So it's sort of like, so you, as much as I'm, like, obviously I'm losing a percentage of students, which is going to happen. We're in a terrible predicament, you know, and there's nothing people can do. You can't hold it against people because their parents are out of work and stuff like that. And I completely understand. And then you've got a core base of parents with the kids and students that are like, you know, we're there to help you and stuff, which is great. You know, the government funding that has come out, we you know, quite thankful for that's come out. Yeah. Because this is about surviving. And if we get through this now and go back, then everyone needs to appreciate, one, that you've had a second chance to do what you love and to put everything back into it. Two, you know, how loyal them students are to you. You know, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are paying the bills at the moment. And, you know, and helping everyone to get on. You know, and 3, you know, you should go back with this new lease of life for me, which I will, which you'll go, do you know what? I want to do, as soon as I go back, within the first 3 months of going back, I'm opening another school. Fully decided that that's what I'm doing. Mate, I've been saying it for ages. Need to open up the school, need to open the school.
Well, you made it public now, so you can't go back on it. Like, this is on record.
I know, this is what I want to do. I want to sort of like, you know, I want to move into different areas and give people the opportunity to be able to do what I did. You know, like, I want to teach, but I sort of like don't want to teach 24 hours a day the way I'm doing. Yeah. I want to be specific, but I want to be able to give other people the opportunity to sort of like come under my umbrella and my school and be able to
guys
teach.
Like, yeah, no, that's awesome.
Be able to give them the opportunity that I've had. You know, all I ever wanted to do from when I was a kid, you know, apart from like the films and stuff and that, was teach martial arts. That's it. I don't know anything else. You know
what? Like, I'm exactly the same. And I tell you what, you and I, I'm in the position, and you're probably the same, where we've got to be some of the rare people that when you asked us what we wanted to do when we were 5, 6 years old, and now we're in 40s and we're actually doing it. How many people on the face of the planet can say that?
No, I know. Everyone always says to me, "We'll go into movies. You know what it is?" And my answer is the same thing. When I was like 4 or 5, I watched The Big Boss, Bruce Lee, and I become obsessed. We were all around at my nan's. My nan was the first person to get a VHS recorder with the remote on the lead. But the whole family went round, and the two films that we had to watch were Bruce Lee, The Big Boss, and Monty Python, The Holy Grail. They were the first 2 films I ever watched on video. I was sick of Bruce Lee at The Big Boss, the scene where he comes back and everyone's been slaughtered in the house, and there's like bright red, unrealistic blood. But obviously, me being a little kid, so I was sick of that. But from that day, I was so. I mean, even now, you know, I've got hundreds of books just on Bruce and everything else, and I was just like, I just want
Christmas, mate. I tell you.
Yeah, it is. I was like, I want to be Bruce Lee. I am gonna be Bruce Lee. And you know what? I mean, as much as like I put that into my head when I was a kid, like something in my subconscious has gone push, and I've sort of like, you know, I'm ticking boxes that like I could think of doing. You know, obviously my martial arts training, then winning titles and stuff. I know he didn't do all that, and then, you know, going into movies, and I'm like, man, it's like, you know, I'm subconsciously in my head trying to do this path. You know, I'm trying to tick these boxes. You know, and
you're all right there, bro. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
go on.
Mate, to have. We were lucky because kids nowadays only get Bruce Lee second, third, fourth, and generation. Yeah. You know, my dad was completely obsessed with martial arts and stuff, and I was lucky because my dad's friends are like Terry O'Neill, you know, and so these are the people that, you know, Brian McKinney. These are the people I was surrounded with on a daily basis. You know, I was seeing them all the time, and I remember looking up to Terry like, my God, he is like, do you know what, mate? And honestly, God, and I say this to Mr. O'Neill, like, even though we're like really good friends now and stuff, I didn't speak to him until I was like, I reckon about 23. I used to see him all the time and just want to go, Mr. O'Neill. But I was that scared because he was that much of this like figure in my head. Honestly, mate. But it's just, you know, I think kids don't understand. They don't understand.
It is, I found there, Lee, when you've got characters, and obviously another one in your life, without saying Benny the Jet Urquidez, in mine too, and Terry, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember reading his Fighting Arts Illustrated, seeing him on the front cover of Martial Arts Illustrated, seeing the Combat magazine. Remember that? Okay, I'm going back now. When the feature, boss, when they had the feature with Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he taught him the sword Conan films. Yeah. So there was all that, and just everything about him, what he represented as just being a badass martial artist, his physique, everything. I sort of aspired to him. Benny Urquidez, again, in the ring and in film against Jackie Chan, the 2 fight scenes in Wheels on Meals and Dragons Forever, to this day, 2 of the best ever. And what I think is, you do get those occasional wow moments, and it's when someone was such a massive influence on you when you were growing up, and they were very much part of that hyper real, so to speak, that purely spiritual, non-physical world where TV and music and movies, and to an extent as well, just sort of high-level professional sporting competition, it all kind of is in that world, which when you're a kid, it seems miles away and it seems completely untouchable. I mean, more so in our day. Things seem a lot closer, in my opinion, these days. You've got so much social media, everyone's so much more accessible. It does feel a little bit closer. It's still, an achievement, and but it was a different world, wasn't it? And I think when you've got someone that represented such a massive part of that hyperreal universe for yourself, and then you get to meet him in person, it's like, just occasionally you get those little moments of starstruck. I have had a couple, you know what I mean?
You know what, mate? The thing I miss more than anything nowadays is them magazines. The likes of your fighters, Fighting Arts International, Martial Arts Illustrated, Combat, because they created icons for us to look up to. They created the icons. I remember, like, every month I was so excited to just go out and spend all my pocket money or, my money I'd earned to buy these magazines and just read and look at the tournament scene and stuff. And I think, it's a shame that sort of that age of people buying magazines and stuff is gone. I mean, we've got social media and stuff, but I don't think, for me, it's not quite the same.
No, I agree.
Because on social media, it can be flippant. You can go through, you can see a technique, you can go, oh, that's all right. And, but back in that day, I mean, I remember, even down to the adverts, mate, Chuck Norris jeans, throwing stars, you know what I mean? You're rubbing nunchuckers, you're Bruce Lee. I'm saying it because I had them all.
I've got
Bruce Lee. Yeah. I had them. I had the yellow suit with the black stripe up. Right. Walking around, and all my mates are getting like Mongoose BMX bikes. I'm getting a kung fu suit with rubbing nunchuckers, walking around the estate with my kung fu slippers on.
Hell yeah.
But I think back then, because, we had these, and then we had the icons that followed, didn't we? From whether you followed, Thai boxing, kickboxing, your sport karate, even down to your traditional elements, with your Shotokan and, your kung fu. There was a magazine for everything, which I bought everything because obviously that's what I was into. But it created this generation where you sort of you could see the time and effort everyone was putting into the training. You were reading it, and how do I say this without sounding too political? Everybody had back then, lineage, you know what I mean? They had they come from something. They come from, their instructor. I train on Master McKinney, trained in China, under Zhu Hao and, Professor Li Dian, and training the best. I know my Shotokan. I know where the lineage comes from my Shotokan instructors. Obviously I train under Benny, so it's just. But you sort of you knew the in depth and for me back then and even now, it was important to know about the history. It was important to know about where it developed, where it come from, how Kung Fu started, who brought Kung Fu into China, how karate started, where karate, for me, it was the whole thing. And
oh, mate, I'm a huge fan of traditional martial arts to this day. I've got a 6-degree black belt in tutorial karate. I'm hopefully going to be taking my black belt in Hapkido Kung Fu, which is traditional Shaolin Kung Fu. So check this out. My sensei in that respect is a guy called Dave Rogers. And he was in the military over in Malaya in the 50s, because he's 82 now. And at 82 years old, I've seen it many times with my own eyes. He still breaks 2-inch thick board freestanding. So if you just put it on a table, if you just flipped it, it'll fall over. The core strength and the speed and the close range striking ability of this guy. He taught me about different body mechanics, because he does proper Shaolin Kung Fu. Now, it's got nothing to do with imitating the animal itself. That was Jackie Chan doing this comedy stuff, which is excellent in the 70s. But yeah, you know, snake style is not on the list.
I watched Drunken Master the other day. I had a Jackie Chan day on. My little boy's being ill. So I reached the Sunday. I was sitting there, I was like sulking because I couldn't have him because he wasn't well. No. And I was like, what can I do? And I just went, Jackie Chan Day. Honestly, got him out. Drunken Master, Wheels on Meals, Police Story 2, Project A. I was just sat there. Then in the evening, I threw The Matrix on. So I just sat and just went.
I had last night, Lee. Snake Crane Arts of Shaolin. Jackie Chan.
You know what I had done? Right. I found on Amazon, like, because I got Amazon, I was like, just obviously, this was down. And I was like, the film thing isn't that good. You go into the search bar. If you put a genre into the search bar, you get so many more films. Yeah. It doesn't show you on the thing. So just put martial arts, mate. Then the other night I watched AWOL. Then I watched Martial Law with Cynthia Rodrock. Then
Hey, I know my stuff, mate. Come on.
And last night I watched Angel Town with
Gruner.
Yeah. Amazing, mate. Amazing. I was just sat there, like, reliving my youth. Like, this is amazing. So,
hold that thought, because I want to come back to those 80s movies in a minute. Yeah. So just very quickly back to the trad martial arts. I mean, Dave learnt in Malaya in a Shaolin temple, and when he wasn't in all-out kill or be killed warfare in the jungle, you know, he was in the temple training with the monks. And the stuff that he said, everything he's taught is extremely traditional, right? Mm. And I love that, and I love the pure art side of it. But also, there are that many, like, extremely effective techniques, particularly for real life self-protection. And I've used many of them in live street fights. I was working on the doors for 18 years, so I've had my fair share. Dave was the guy that taught me the body mechanics. You know, because up until then I'd done some boxing, karate and judo, but everything was very muscular. He taught me how to relax. He taught me how to generate power at extremely close range. Which is great for the street, but also great for like ground and pound and MMA, you know, where you've not got a long way to wind up and you need to keep the pressure on someone. So he taught me how to use my core properly, my breathing. He taught me the psychological side of it because he's Shinto. And what he taught me, basically, that helped me sort of form the cornerstones of an effective sort of internal psychological system that allows me to deal with life, the universe and everything. And that goes on at this day. So, like, the lineage and everything, I completely and utterly get it. And the system and the structure. And I know that traditional martial arts is not the most effective way to show somebody how to fight. It teaches via shape. Yeah. You learn the shapes and then you learn the applications to those shapes. And often there are way, way more than one application to any given shape. So you can take a basic block, or as they're called, blocks, most of them are strikes anyway, if you know the proper Japanese traditional application before it got, you know, more broadly rolled out. And yeah, I mean, I find the whole process just fascinating and also highly enjoyable. And also that is my system. That is my go-to place. You need your systems because
you know what, mate? You need the traditional martial arts. You need the traditional martial arts. Otherwise, you're just learning to be a fighter. Mm. You're not learning to be a martial artist. A martial artist and a fighter are two different kettles of fish. A martial artist does it for the life and the way of life, and you have the ability to be able to fight. Fighter just fights. Fighter just wants to fight. And once that fight's over, they won't continue with what they're doing because the mindset isn't different. You look at like the UFC and stuff, all the greatest champions in my mind that we've ever had have had some kind of traditional system behind them, has had, you know, even for you know, GSPs, the Machidas, you know, the original, like, you know, the Gracies, you know, they've all had some kind of like
strong lineage.
Yeah, martial art, you know, some strong system. And you know, like I've said to you before, there's so much different between a martial artist and a fighter, which unfortunately people don't understand because, you know, people see traditional stuff now and like it busts my balls, mate, when I say stuff, and You know, it's you know, I share wushu stuff all the time. I come from a wushu background. I did wushu for years and stuff. Went into did sandar, won the British title in sandar, Chinese kickboxing with throws and stuff. Yeah. You know, and that's like that's for me, that's like perfect. That, you know, it's perfect. You know, all your greatest, all these people that you watch, or the people that people aspire to, you know, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, they all come from that. They all had that element of like that traditional, you know, okay, yeah, Jackie Chan trained in the Peking, you know, the Peking God, but he's still trained in the Peking God, but he's still got that discipline, that thing. I think nowadays it's sort of lost and the mindset's a little bit different, and people look at traditional martial arts different. But do you know what, mate? It'll come full circle. It's going to come full circle.
I agree. And what I would say is, I mean, the systems are vital. At the end of the day, it's always the individual that makes the art, not the system that makes the man. You know, that kind of a deal. And there is an issue, obviously, that Bruce Lee sort of highlighted in the 60s, because he was years ahead of his time, saying about people that are addicted to systems, and they're not sort of applying themselves intelligently. At the end of the day, the system is just the map. It's not the terrain. If you're walking along, you're following your map, and you find a 200-foot sinkhole opened up in front of you, I mean, what do? Do you walk on blindly, or do you find a way around? I mean, obviously, you use your intelligence, and, you know, you develop a basic game plan from a system and from that kind of traditional training and regimented training, whether it be traditional or not. But, you know, it's all about, at the end of the day, it's always going to be about the individual expression of that system, of that universal truth, as it were. So you take what's
all the rest.
Yeah.
So that was what Bruce used to say all the time. And I've used that for years, mate. You know, you look at my book collection, you know, mainly from when I was a kid, was every form of combat art I could find, I read about. You know, even like, I remember, I mean, obviously as I progressed and stuff, and you know, went on, and, you know, even like remember the old, like, really terrible kung fu movies? I used to, like, watching, man, like, back in the day, it used to be like, oh, the subtitles so bad and stuff like this. You know, when you're a kid, because everyone just wanted Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan or, you know, Van Dam as you started growing up. You watch them now, mate, their technique is absolutely, like, perfect. Yeah, it's just, you know, it's just, but, you know, like you were just saying, you've got to take what's useful for you, you know, and discard the rest. I say to every student that comes into my martial arts club, like, I'm there to guide you and show you what to do. But you move different than you. 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 Everyone in this place, I'll show you how to do a round kick. And everyone that does that round kick will do it completely different, because your body won't allow it. Your mechanics won't allow it. You know, whether you're weight, whether you've had injuries, whether you're old, whether you're, you know, everything. So it's like, so I will show you how it is. I will explain how you do it. But how every person performs that kick will be completely different, because everyone's made up different.
Teachers, Lee, every teacher, right? Every single teacher will have a slightly different take, because we all might be working off the same sort of rough sort of mechanical system, but everyone, for those very reasons you just mentioned, and just their own personal sort of vibe, their own personal attitude, their own personal mechanics, everyone's going to have a slightly different interpretation. And the way they teach that technique is brilliant. You can go to 10 different instructors, they'll teach you the same technique, and you'll pick up 10 completely different points. And that's what I love about training with the greats and doing the seminars. And you go and train with this guy, and you've been doing the technique 20-something years, and it's been working for you. And then they put a different spin on it, and you think, I never thought about that going there. That's incredible. And you have that kind of gestalt, like eureka moment, and it really hooks you up. And then it opens your training up again, and that's what I absolutely love. I've always sort of told my students to go and train with other instructors of quality, you know, because you pick up difference. I'm secure with what I do, right? And my students are highly happy because they keep coming back, and it's been my full-time occupation since 2011. Proof's in the pudding, that's fine. I also recognise that there are other quality systems out there, and other people have some excellent ways, some excellent takes on on these techniques. I mean, even your own students, from time to time, you see something one of your students is going, and you go, wow, that's crazy. Where did you think of, how did you think of applying it like that? You know, and so you know, you can even pick up and learn and get sort of reinvigorated from your own students at times. Fantastic.
For me, when I know that this is the most bizarre thing, but when I started teaching was when I started learning more.
Yes.
Like when I remember, like, because obviously, I mean, I always say you're always a student. You're always a student. And the reason I say that is for me as the teacher and as the instructor, is like I just said before, every person that comes in is completely different. You know, nowadays, you know, we've got a lot of kids with autism, ADHD and stuff like that. So you all constantly have to learn and develop and be able to adjust your systems to how it suits these individual needs from all your students, and how they perform and how they, you know, in terms of like me explaining a technique, I could explain a technique to one person, and then that person there just doesn't get it. So having the ability to be able to adjust and understand how you go about teaching, how you go about sort of like help and motivate that person, show them how to get through it. I mean, for me, like, I think I honestly believe that I could become a better martial artist the minute I started teaching.
Oh, me too. I mean,
because I started to understand a little bit better.
When you have to teach, you, as you said, you have to articulate what you do to a third party, which makes you incredibly analytical of your own technique. And sometimes, you know, you're stumped and you think, how do I do that? Or you're looking at a student and just for a while, you can't figure out why it's not right. And then it clicks. And again, you break that down into an even sort of more detailed, fine-tuned explanation of that technique. But then that's logging with yourself all the time. So the more you're bringing your own skill set and your own body mechanics to a more conscious level, absolutely, the better you become, because the more conscious it is, the more rep that knowledge is, the more you can let go of it in a live situation. So, you know, if you were competing or in a live situation, it's like you can find that zone that little bit easier, because, I mean, that's, you know, that's something we all go through, isn't it? You know, the different stages of learning. We all go through that mechanical stage where you're still thinking about the technique, and then eventually you get to the stage of sort of unconscious competence. But I think, like you say, teaching brings that process on tenfold. And yeah, and mate, we will talk all day. We will continue to talk all day. I better, just so that we don't like have a 6-hour interview. We can do it in 3 parts. It's going to be an epic. It's going to be an epic now. So that's quite a lot about background teaching, our general vibe and everything. That's fantastic stuff. And I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting yet again.